We also have some other interesting information coming out. Now, of course, the media are trying to twist this and say, I don't understand why Trump's lawyers gave this to their friend John Solomon at Just the News. It doesn't help Trump. I mean, it demonstrates he really had classified documents. And what John Solomon is trying to show and is showing is that Joe Biden eliminated or tried to eliminate for Donald Trump the right to assert executive privilege over certain documents. Now, here's the problem. Once you're president, you have executive privilege over a wide swath of information and documents, emails, texts, so forth. Why? Because you have to be able to operate. You have to be able to get confidential advice. Because otherwise you're going to be looking over your shoulder at your legacy and history for the rest of time, particularly if the goal is to criminalize something after the fact by the next administration in the opposite party. And in this case, you have a president in the opposite party who wants to run again and would likely be running against Donald Trump. So when you take one of the defenses out, one of the constitutional defenses, you're Biden, you say, I'm waiving executive privilege on all the documents Trump has. You're trying to take one of his defenses away. Now, keep in mind, this is a second and third line of defense. The first one is, none of this applies to Trump. None of these criminal statutes apply to Trump. But they took his attorney-client privilege documents. They took away executive privilege. They went into his home. They had an unlawful, in my view, unconstitutional warrant. And now we can make the case that the warrant should never have been issued, regardless of its breadth. For the reason I said constitutionally, because that law, the Espionage Act, doesn't apply. And Rivkin and Casey have made the point, but another law does apply and affirmatively gives the President of the United States the right to review documents wherever the hell he wants to, including in his home. Go.
We have new evidence. Just the News has obtained correspondence between various parties during the lead up to the raid showing that the Biden White House, that's right, Joe Biden's White House, the one that said they had nothing to do with this, they were deeply involved in the early instigation of the criminal probe against President Trump, including clearing the way for the President Trump's claim of executive privilege to be eviscerated, basically getting rid of his executive privilege before he could contest it. That occurred just before a grand jury started delivering subpoenas looking for the records. So for the first time, we now have evidence that Joe Biden's White House was in the middle of this right from the start, way before the Mar-a-Lago raid, even before a grand jury delivered a subpoena to the president in May of this year. We're going to have more of that as the show goes along. But first, we're going to bring in from the phone, because we have so much breaking news, Congressman Jim Jordan, the ranking Republican on the House Judiciary Committee, and the man who will be chairman next year if Republicans take control of Congress. Congressman, good to have you on the show, sir.
Good to be with you, John. That is amazing news if that's the case. But yeah, good to be with you today.
Yeah, this is important stuff. This is a letter that the National Archives sent to President Trump's lawyers on May 10th. And what it shows, Congressman, is that back in April, the White House approved sending the 15 boxes that Donald Trump had at his home to the FBI, initiating the criminal investigation. And then a few weeks later saying, the archives, you can waive President Trump's privilege. The President Biden will not protect his privilege. Go ahead and do it if you want. And that allowed a grand jury to drop a subpoena and the President Trump's team not to be able to contest the subpoena using executive privilege. We have that letter. We showed a little bit on screen here. Your thoughts of the Biden White House being in the middle of this right from the start?
Well, I guess it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, you remember, we had heard it had been reported that the Attorney General had deliberated for weeks. So during that time, if he's deliberating on what to do and whether they're actually going to, have the raid on President Trump's home, it seemed likely to me that he'd talk with the White House. Because remember, this is the same Justice Department and same White House who coordinated with the school board, National School Boards Association, before they, in fact, initiated the letter as the pretext for the Biden administration taking the action against moms and dads that they took last fall. And as far as we know, and basically according to what whistleblowers have told us on that issue, they continue to do. So it shouldn't surprise us that the Biden White House was in on this from the get-go, because that's what I always suspected was the case anyway.
Yeah.
So here we have, I'm taking notes as I'm watching and thinking, So we have John Solomon's article that the White House stripped the former president of executive privilege claims, which are to be litigated. We have the FBI that took documents out of Mar-a-Lago, all of them, as best we can tell, which would include attorney-client privilege documents. We have the Presidential Records Act, which was clearly violated. And we have Article 2, in my view, Section 1, violated of the Constitution. And we have the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution violated. I'm just taking little notes for myself as far as I'm concerned. And over what? Documents? Most of you have never been to Mar-a-Lago. I have a few times. It's a magnificent place. It's also loaded with Secret Service agents and also private security. You couldn't get in that building if you wanted to. You couldn't get in that building if you wanted to. And so that's why they needed subpoenas and search warrants and armed FBI to go in there. In other words, those documents were totally secure. Now, the only thing I can think of they have up their sleeve is some claim that documents were being moved or documents were being destroyed. You can still deal with that, at least that claim. You can still deal with that claim, but in ways that don't involve a search warrant. How does a search warrant fix that? How does a search warrant determine whether documents are in fact being removed or destroyed? They don't. They don't. What you ask for is you go in front of the judge who had issued the subpoena before, and you ask for a hearing, and you ask for testimony under oath. Not a trial, not a full-fledged trial, just testimony under oath by the lawyers or others who were watching the materials, even the Secret Service. So documents are being moved. Fine. He's allowed to move documents. That's the point. So none of this really adds up. I'm sure they're going to make some kind of claim, but your distrust of the Federal Bureau of Investigation over the last 5 years, your distrust of the Department of Justice, your distrust of the media is well deserved, well understood, because they are corrupt as hell. They are obsessed like hell. They want to destroy Trump. They want to destroy any potential candidacy of Trump, because they're concerned and desperately concerned about their own power. And they know the Mitch McConnells of the world and his ilk, which unfortunately make up a lot of Republicans in Washington, D.C., they know that they can get away with whatever they want under that man. They know that they'll have the Never-Trumpers, the Bushes, the Cheneys, the Romneys, and the rest of their ilk to defend their backs regardless, because they want power too. They stand for nothing, but they want power too. It is an incestuous relationship between the Democrat Party, the media, and the Republican establishment. The bureaucracy thrives under Democrats, thrives under Democrats. It is an appendage of the Democrat Party. And they also leak to the media. I never thought, to be honest with you, when I was Chief of Staff to the Attorney General of the United States and worked so closely with the FBI, that such a transformation was even possible, let alone what happened in breakneck speed. But it has. And I don't think Mike Pence is correct when he says it's just at the top levels anymore. No. We have men in the military who have resigned. We have men in the military who stand up and challenge what the generals are doing. I'm not aware of too many FBI agents who've done that, who've objected what's taking place here. I'm just not. We've had police officers at the local level who've objected, who've retired, who've quit, who've spoken out because of the brutal policies of these Democrat mayors undermining their citizens, undermining the police force, murder through the roof, these sucker punches, rape, all these disgusting things. The society is completely unraveling. And you have police protesting either as individuals by their own actions and so forth. I don't see that at the FBI, which keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Do you? So the more the government is centralized, the more police activities are centralized under the FBI, the more the FBI has the power to nationalize local law enforcement, and it's going around the country doing exactly that and getting these consent decrees that undermines their ability to manage their own agencies. The more the borders open and the Border Patrol and ICE are undermined and, quite frankly, defunded by the actions of this administration, powering up the Internal Revenue Service, doubling the numbers of agents, doubling the number of agents. You see what's taking place here. And so they know if Trump gets back in, he's going to do things that a George Bush would never do. He's going to do things that a Cheney would never do. He's going to do things now more than ever, because he will know through personal experience how corrupt this government has become. And so they want to destroy him. They've tried everything, and now they're going to try to indict him.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to LevinTV.com and subscribe now.